on the night of my 30th birthday. I sat in front of a store-bought slice of cake with a bent candle, pretending everything was fine. My dad had a beer in hand, my brother was texting on the iPhone I paid for, and my mom smiled like she hadn't just guilt-tripped me for an hour. Then I said it. We need to talk about the money. What came next? A quiet war. One I didn't fight with yelling but with a single, well-documented email that tore apart their perfect image. On my birthday, my family threw me out. When I wouldn't pay my brothers, I walked away with a $100,000 bill, and it blew up. What? One email said about them, "Happy birthday, Liam," my mom said. Her voice happy and fake, as if she hadn't just made me feel guilty for an hour before for not willing to pay off. I sat at the end of John's car loan on the table. A store-bought slice of icy cake in front of me and wax that's almost dripped from a 30 candle that was bent. My dad slouched across from me and put one arm around me, stretched out on the chair and held a beer, and my brother John, 28, idle and clearly not interested in being responsible, was looking through used one hand to text on his phone one, using his brand new iPhone which I had bought. So I said, clearing my throat and my heart was beating fast, but I tried to stay cool. "We need to talk about the money," Dad grunted, and Mom blinked. John didn't look up. "And I can't keep covering everything I said I was, as I've worked to build a future for myself. Been making payments on the mortgage here. I paid John's bills for groceries and electricity. I need to cut my second DUI fee from last year." John looked up and said, "You're acting like." I looked at him with pity. It was he or her. Dad leaned forward and laughed. "Wow, that's cool." Eyes tense as if I had just hurt them. "The Pope. Start with your brothers, $650,000 in debt. That's the real, is that it?" His mom gave him a sideways look. She looked like she wished he hadn't said that. John became very still when he said it, out loud. "That's not what I said," in a quiet voice. It was my fault that the room got cold. Dad leaned back his lips and said, "Nothing moved." She answered with a scowl on her face. "Guess we know where you stand." When I got home from work the next day, my things, like my clothes and books, my PC, and the tools I used to work as a freelancer were set up nicely on the porch. The V-locks had been changed, and there was a note pinned to the door. "Think about what you've done." That's all it said I had to do. They stood there for a long time and were amazed at the writing. My mom did was clear as day that I did not knock. I didn't scream or cry. I just took a big breath, breathed, took my things and left. Then I set the message to go out at the next morning. Everything was different. To figure out how we got to a moving out on your birthday and a note that felt you have to go back 10 years to get a slap. I was 20 years old when John hit his first car, and they were drunk. Mum, Dad screamed, and I, the golden son who has a steady job and no. The record company paid the Towie and gave him a $3,000 loan for fixes that he never paid back. It was only meant to happen once. Something that happened, but it set up a pattern. When John quit college, it was my fault that I did not giving him help with his schoolwork. When I lost 3 jobs in a year and got a lesson on why some people just more trouble. When he overdrafted his, my mom used to call me soft. And Liam, who feels guilty, is your sweetheart. Brother, why don't you just cover this? When I always did it. I paid the rent. I paid the insurance for John when he was kicked out. He took 2 parties in his car while I walked to work, bought food, and paid for it. The property taxes, our parents paid when they fell behind, but still paid for taking lessons at night to get my electrical certification of the method. The whole time John worked all day in the basement, listening to music and not doing anything useful. The worst part is that he didn't even act like you're thankful he did. That was due to him. Liam's doing great. He waved his hand at me like I was a ATM without a face. He has it. That's what big brothers are for my parents. They loved it. I could have moved out, but every time if you told Mom about it, she would cry. "This house only feels like it's home with you in it," Dad would say. "Don't be so dramatic. Also, please remember that I only paid a small part of what it cost. Like the phone plan that's enough about John." He'd smile and why leave when you have it. So yes, I had a good time as I worked, having 60-hour weeks and not seeing much daylight while my brother stole money from me to get new headphones. I skipped lunch to save money while my dad used my get paid to fix the air conditioner and told me I should be thankful they didn't have to deal with it all. Boiled over 2 months before I had just come home from a birthday party. 14-hour shift when I saw John getting ready a party, my custom-built game PC set up piece by piece. Over 5 years he was in the living room, and linked to his sound system where his friends had passed out on the couch were a lot of beer bottles. Floor. My computer was stuck, and I didn't yell. I just turned off everything and I put everything back in my room. The next mom yelled at me in the morning. Made him feel bad. She kept talking. It looks like his friends saw you storming around like crazy people. They were using my things I talked about. It's not just your house, she replied. Everything here is shared. On the night of my 30th birthday, I sat in front of a store-bought slice of cake with a bent candle, pretending everything was fine. My dad had a beer in hand. My brother was texting on the iPhone I paid for. And my mom smiled like she hadn't just guilt-tripped me for an hour. Then I said it. We need to talk about the money. What came next? A quiet war. One I didn't fight with yelling but with a single, well-documented email that tore apart their perfect image. Why did John buy new headphones, shoes, and tattoos? While not working, Liam lived in the basement because if he were a renter, even though he paid for, Dad tried to spin everything. And we were giving him structure. He told everyone agreed that it was wrong. Move. I sent you a recording from the night they threw me out. I was able to record with my 5, read a lot of family drama stories online, and always thought, that sucks, but mine's not that bad. Until I realized, yes, it is. This is me finally letting it out. Call this a confession, a coming of age, or just a reality check. Whatever it is, it's mine. So here it is. My name's Liam. I just turned 30. I got kicked out of my parents' house on my birthday. Why? Because I finally said no after years of paying for everything from the mortgage, groceries, bills, and even my younger brother's second DUI fees. But when I refused to cover his $100,000 crypto debt, they lost it. Said I was selfish. Said I was tearing the family apart. They packed up my things, left them on the porch, and changed the locks. There was a handwritten note taped to the door. All it said was, think about what you've done. I did. Then I sent an email. One email with everything. Screenshots, receipts, Venmo logs, voice recordings, loan documents. The time John tried to take out $15,000 in my name. I sent it to the entire extended family, mom's side, dad's side, church group, neighbors. That email told the story they tried to bury. It exposed a decade of lies. How they let my brother fail upward while I worked 60-hour weeks. How I was guilt-tripped into covering property taxes, car insurance, and student loans I never took. How they treated me like a bank, with guilt instead of love. By noon, my phone was blowing up with calls I didn't answer. By evening, my aunt texted, "Good for you, I'm proud of you." The fallout was immediate. My parents, upstanding folks in a small town, watched their image crumble. John lost his job again. Extended family finally saw through the golden child narrative. The truth was out, and I didn't need to yell. I just left. I moved into a 1-bedroom above a flower shop. I started freelance work again, took up climbing, and finally enrolled in the boot camp I'd been putting off for years. I'm dating someone who doesn't need saving. I have peace. And silence, the good kind. A few weeks later, Mom showed up at my job with teary eyes and a Tupperware of my favorite food. I met her outside. She said, "You're tearing this family apart." I replied, calmly, "No, I just stopped holding it together." That was the moment everything truly shifted. Now, no more guilt texts, no emergency calls about John's license or taxes. No last-minute money grabs. Just me, living my life on my terms. For the first time ever, I don't feel guilty for choosing myself. I used to be their backbone. Turns out I was the match. And when I walked away, I left them in the fire they built for me.